Okay, back to you, Josh.
Welcome back.
Smooth as a baby's bum.
Got me some coffee. Got my pen out. My paper out. It's time to be very, very quiet. We're hunting ballers.
Well, I've just made a mistake, so I'm just going to see if I can just find my quantum eraser. You started the shit jokes, so.
Well, I'll tell you what. You continued in line very strongly, sir. Way to keep up the. Way to keep it up. Definitely ranks up there in the shit jokes pile.
I've just stuck John in. Hopefully, he'll join us in a second.
I suspect Walter's still caffeinating. He's high maintenance when it comes to his coffee.
I've opted for apple juice.
Hello?
Hello, John. How are you, mate?
Hey, good, gentlemen. How are you guys?
Yeah. Not very
Recovering
bad.
from another day at the slave job.
Oh, hey, are we live?
Yeah.
We are live.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. You're broadcasting across the plane.
Am I late?
Nope.
Perfectly fashionably on time, sir.
It's like
I pride myself on punctuality.
a quantum eraser is never late,
No.
nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.
So what's going on? What's up today?
Well, we've had a good ramble first. Do you want to have a chip in on this water business first, John, before we start? I know you were probably having your tea, so you missed my ramble, but I thought I'd let you have it.
That water nonsense? That's about, I'll tell you what, that's 5 levels below no trees on flat Earth. I was in a good mood. I was in a good mood most of the day. I had some problems with my computer. Shout out to Anthony. Hooked me up. And I was in a good mood. Everything's going well. And then now here we go.
I think the one that made me laugh, right, I'd done the show, I'd gone on Nathan's show, and John texted me in the week and was just saying, well, now you have to explain why fish don't liberate hydrogen while swimming. It's maybe it's time to consider what level you'll discuss, because I think there was one point in Nathan's show where people were suggesting that the oxygen in water that fish use was the similar reaction.
They break the hydroxyl bonds, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, and I think that kind of emphasises the point, really. Look, there's enough of us out there that are contactable and stuff, and we all have fucking great ideas, but sometimes if we're doing stuff out there, you're doing, as Anthony says, you're doing us more on than good in the long run. If we're just throwing brain farts out there all the time. But there's enough of a community out there. If we've got ideas, yeah, we don't have to join a club. It doesn't cost money, but you can contact people left, right, and centre. That's how I've met John. Do you know what I mean, and stuff. And we can work together on this stuff and invest our time a lot more efficiently, and then the way we're doing it at the moment, I think.
Yeah, but we're going back to the alphabet when I'm in English 300, right? We should be in English 300 by now. Not going back and saying, okay, did A start this? Does B come after A? I don't know. I mean, I was in, it had to be elementary school, right? All I remember is taking hydrogen gas. It's probably 5th or 6th grade. I can't remember which one it was. In general science, right? We had a little lab in there, and the teacher put a little bit of hydrogen gas, just a tiny bit, inside a test tube, right? And each of us had a spark. And he goes, okay, all you got to do is just hit this spark, right? And ta-da, water, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Am I the only one who's done this?
No. I described that. That's how you take the two gas products from the electrolysis and how you test them, because then you can take that water and you do actually have exceptionally pure water. Funnily enough.
And the teacher, he gathered all the test tubes from all of us, right, and poured all the water, and there wasn't that much, and poured all the water into one test tube, and then he drank it. And what I can remember from it, I can remember the smell, right? There was something about the smell of the hydrogen that I always think about. I can distinctly remember that. So
that could have been your teacher drinking all that dirty water like that, to be fair.
Yeah, it could have been. Yeah. So I don't know. It's ridiculous to me. And we're going to talk, maybe we're going to get into an aspect of that probably pretty quickly into the presentation, and you're going to see why. Not so much the H2O part, but the chemistry part. I'll stop when I get there.
Well, maybe that's the best segue we've ever had.
Certainly was.
Oh, you want me to start the presentation already?
Mate, it's entirely up to you. I'm just... Not now. You've ruined the segue now. No, not necessarily.
No. Start over. Go somewhere else. We'll try it again in a few minutes.
It seems like, people just want me for my presentations. I mean, they don't want to know who I am, inside.
I gotta tell you, that's not the case here. I would love to get to know the real quantum eraser, the real John, a little bit more.
I don't know about that. Too funny, man.
Well, I think that's, mate, if you would share that with us, kind of like because you've got a bit of a fierce reputation, shall we say?
Really?
Yeah, no shitting, bro. Yeah. Yeah, you know what I mean, and like, I think you're like Nathan's heavy artillery, and it was noticeable today. He asked you to summarise it because there was just such a level of nonsense there that he asked you just to kind of pull it out and summarise, and maybe you could explain where you've honed those skills and where they've come from. That'd be
Well, let's start off at the beginning. I was born in the year of our Lord, 1900, 3 No, I'm only kidding, man.
No. Well, I9 was that, and 3.
Say again?
I9 and 3.
9 and 3. Where did I get that from? I'm probably, we all have different backgrounds, and everything we go through make us who we are. And, I'm retired military, so my BS meter is pegged, 24/7, 365, and I'm pretty, dogmatic about things. I'm pretty assertive. A lot of people take that as arrogant and pompous. Where I came from, that was just, the SOP, or standard operating procedure. So I really don't know any other way. And then, of course, I have a background in biochemistry and genetics, and my passion is quantum mechanics. So I learned all this stuff, like I said, especially the science part, just basic general science in 5th grade, right? The scientific method was the scientific method. It was real easy. I remember seeing it up on the board, and I said, yeah, that makes sense, And what we did, we followed it, and we did experiments, even in grade school. It got a little bit more in depth in junior high, but not that much so. It was the same method. It hadn't changed. I went to university. We used, guess what? The scientific method. It wasn't a big shock. It was the same one. It didn't change. And then in my professional career, we used the scientific method. I know this is shocking to most. It didn't change. It stayed the same. So after I retired from the military and got out and then, had a little spare time, I ran into all these people talking on the internet, evolution, cosmology, astronomy, all the Einstein, Newtonian mechanics, all that stuff. And I'm sitting there, okay, well, these people are talking about all this stuff. They must know. I mean, this must follow the scientific method. And I start looking at it, and I'm sitting there, hello, this isn't science. And I started, I guess I was naive, to begin with when I got out here. It's like amateur night. These people need to go back to picking up cans alongside of the road and not talk about, these things. They're just parroting these things from Wiki or the Discovery Channel. I'm sitting back here looking at all this stuff, laughing at these people. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but it looks like it looks like the Three Stooges out here. Everyone. So I guess that's why I come off as pompous and stuff, because I'm just shaking my head at most people. They shouldn't be out here. Like I said, go back to your true vocation, picking up cans alongside of the road. It's okay. We need people to pick up cans alongside of the road, right? We need people to pick up trash. It's okay to do those things. Listen, I was a grunt for nearly half my career. I know what it is to be down there in the mud. Nothing wrong with that. I loved it. Best people in my life I met there. And the smartest people, by the way. They were grunts, right? All heart, baby.
We're all grunts, mate.
So I guess, I don't know, that gets you. I like jogging in the rain. My dislikes are bad breath and globetards. Is that good enough? Does that give you a mindset of where I'm coming from?
I think so. Jogging in the rain, I dig it.
Like jogging in the rain, nice moonlit nights on the beach. That's about it. I think that puts about everything into a neat capsule. I guess you can get sort of the mindset where I'm coming from.
That's exactly. I mean, the bit I was alluding to in terms of you coming into this arena and debating ballers is you'd been doing this for years, not in a flat Earth sense, but in terms of discussing all sorts of stuff within science.
Yeah, it was. I started off with the evolution fairy tale. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't believe it. Then it got into Newtonian mechanics and Einsteinian. The Einsteinian deal, and then of course all the other things. And I'm sitting there, evolution. That's a belly laughing joke. I can't even believe people are still think that that's even viable. They can't even define it. I've had PhD microbiologists, cellular biologists, molecular biologists. Right? I've asked them straight up, can you just define the scientific theory of evolution for me, please? Right? I did that like 12 years ago. Guess what? They couldn't do it. So I couldn't believe it. I mean, I'm sitting there, you're a PhD, molecular biologist. I tell you what, I told him, I said, well, just give me a hypothesis regarding anything, right? Just on anything. They couldn't even do that. PhDs.
Evolution was well before flat Earth. Evolution, John, was one of my, the more you go up, the more you have questions in terms of stuff, as you should do. And by the time I'd finished my course, evolution was, I'd started out, Christian as a kid and atheist by the time I was at university, and by the time I'd been out of university for a year or two, it really was one of the most questionable things that started me.
Right.
Just questioning what you're taught, do you know what I mean? Not in any other sense than that, but starting to look at it that way. I mean, evolution is the biggest. The biggest one that always did me was kind of realising in terms of evolution. They go, you got all these millions, billions of years. Well, you haven't, because as far as I'm aware, even on their time scale, you wiped the dinosaurs out 65 million years, So as far as I can see, you've got 65 million years to turn a mole into me, or a rat into me, not hundreds and hundreds and billions of years. You've got very finite.
That's not evolution.
Wow.
See what I mean?
I didn't think we'd start this early.
Yeah, see what I mean? Because I'm going to say that's not the scientific theory of evolution. What is the scientific theory of evolution? And let me just,
at no point I'm not speaking again. Go.
yeah. Let me give you a news flash. Don't even try it, because it doesn't exist. There's not anything there. It's nothing. It's just smoke and mirrors. I forgot a very important point, gentlemen, and it would be unfair for me to go on from this point. Listen, I'm a flat, non-spinning, domed, geocentric, young Earth creationist. So for your audience out there, let there be no mistake about that. All right?
You just want to say that again, just so people's got every bit, so there is no need to comment and go, oh yeah, go. So
flat.
Do it again.
I'm a flat, non-spinning, domed, geocentric, young Earth creationist, and I'm one of those unique ones. I can validate all of those. So when you have your little stories out there, and listen, I don't know who your audience is, Adam, but most people, all they say, well, there is no proof of this, there's no proof of that. They just parrot stuff. Yeah, there is, and I'm your Huckleberry. So you guys got me all fired up.
Did we do that, or is that just a natural progression?
It's just a natural progression. Funny, too funny, man. I'll try to keep it lower key. I mean, who's your audience? I'm not familiar with your audience. Who's your audience?
You just be yourself. I don't. You just be yourself, bro. That's all we are.
Yeah. So in my other profession, I was an educator for about 6 years. So I got a little bit of that background with me too, and that's certifiable. So if anybody wants to check on that, I'm certifiable. Yeah, but that, all those experiences and stuff make you who you are, right?
Yeah, totally.
So, and I don't put up with any friggin' BS. I just don't do it. If I don't know about a subject, like if you start, like today, perfect example. My computer was all screwed up. Listen, I'm as deaf as a post when it comes to this thing, right? I didn't grow up with these things. I grew up in the late 60s, early 70s, man. I don't know jack about this. And when a subject comes up and I don't know anything about it, guess what you're going to hear? Crickets. Because I'm going to keep my pie hole shut, right? And this is what a lot of people out there need to do also. If there's a subject that comes up and you're not proficient in it, and we're going to go over this here in a few minutes, you need to just shut your incoherent pie holes and just listen. Maybe ask questions, but just listen, right? My buddy was an expert mechanic, right? They called him the car medic. He knew everything about every single car. He could fix anything, right? And we'd always hang out together. But when there was a car down there in his garage and there was a bunch of people standing around, guess what? They had to send a search party out for me. Like, where'd John go? He didn't even say anything. No, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to make a horse's ass out of myself, right?
That's something I've repeated once or twice here on the show.
I was going to say, I'm not, I can't sit in that camp.
It's better to keep your mouth shut and appear the fool than to open your mouth and to prove it.
Remove all doubt. That's correct. That's correct. It's a good mantra to live by, from where I'm coming from. So yeah. So, did that give you an overall picture? You got an image?
I think so.
And then throw some attitude in there with it, and look out.
Well, over on my personal Twitter page at JRCorey77, my Twitter bio actually reads that frothy eloquence neither convinces nor satisfies me. I'm from Missouri. You've got to show me.
That's right. Now, I'm not from Missouri originally. I was born in the home of the world champion Pittsburgh Steelers. However, I'm sitting here in middle Missouri, and you're going to have to show me. Got it?
I like it.
I like that. I like that little the post that you did. It was perfect. You from Missouri?
I am from Missouri. It's actually how we got our what do they call it? Slogan, the motto, the state motto is the "Show Me State," just from that particular quote.
Oh yeah, whereabouts? You know, you don't have to give the location. You don't want to give security reasons. I will absolutely give it. It's O'Fallon, Missouri. I'm about 40 miles west of St. Louis. Oh, okay. I'm near Springfield.
Oh, see, that's perfect. We're just a straight shot down 70. Yeah. Well, sort of, not really. 44.
44.
You're more 44, south.
44, man.
That's it. Yep, I grew up traveling up and down Highway 44 in Missouri.
Yeah, I call it Truck 44. Because there's thousands of trucks, man.
And they drive scary on Highway 44.
They do not. I don't care what weather it is. I was driving in freezing rain. The roads were a sheet of ice, and I was trying to putt along, right, being real careful. Right by.
Yep.
They don't care. Yeah.
I'm sure this is absolutely fascinating for all the listeners, but
sure it is.
Things to talk about.
That's right. They need to listen up and be friggin' happy with what they got.
That's right. Because shit's about to get real, I have a feeling.
And then stop complaining.
I was about to say, it's a good job Savage in here, otherwise we'd be on plumbing by now. So, shall we?
Let's.
You want to...
what do old men talk about? Roads. That's what my father-in-law comes to. If I'm going somewhere, he comes and tells me. They've got this road, this road. I got to go down this road. And let me get the map out, show you.
Are you saying I'm old?
I'm just saying that's what old men do when they get together. So there's a joint character assassination of which I include myself. But you did say 60s and 70s. See, I'm 70s, 80s. So you've probably got a few years on me, John.
I told you I was born the year of our Lord, 1900, 3 3. That's 1963.
10, yeah. I'll show more respect then.
No. Respect isn't garnered by age. Respect is garnered by character and intestinal fortitude.
No, you've earned that, mate. And that was kind of one of the things that pricked my ears up was somebody stating what you're on the presentation going to do, because it was a real good slap in the face, refresher course, however you'd want to describe it. But it was great to hear, and I think it'd be good for people to listen and really remember. You remember it well from your childhood, your scientific method, but it was good the first time I heard this. Quite a while ago now.
You want to go, or you guys got anything more?
I need time to prep, but yeah. So if you're ready to go, I can prepare to go.
Wait 1 second. Let me share my screen.
Give me 1 second, bruv.
And I will say that I watched your presentation over on Nathan Oakley 1980s channel 3 times probably since the last time we spoke in the last 2 weeks, I guess, week and a half or whatever it was.
Which one?
The science versus scientism, the one you did over there.
Now, which presentation? I've done a whole bunch of presentations.
It was basically what you're going to do here tonight.
Okay.
Basically the same thing. And just been completely enthralled by it, because I feel like this is definitely a tool that everybody needs to have in their tool belt. I think the better flat earthers understand this material, the more powerful we will become exponentially. And even Nathan's show has become more entertaining. Once Nathan grasped these concepts and just took a hold and ran with it, it just became a slaughterhouse over there, and just so much fun to watch and listen to.
Well,
I thank you for that.
Nathan's a quick study. He's very articulate, right? And he's direct to the point. And another really good thing is they discussed, even before I was around, that the modus operandi of these globetards is to start on a subject, right? And then as soon as you pin them down, they'll divert. So those guys caught on to it really fast, and now Nathan always brings them back to the point. I love it, right? I love it. I think they're through. They ain't going to come into that show. They're going to send in kids and drunks and stuff just to sacrifice them, because there's no ballers going in there. No way.
That's not prophecy. That isn't. That's a summary.
They ain't going in there. They'd be out of their minds to go in there straight.
The Rumpus has been trying, but he's banned, isn't he? He's not allowed because he's not kept his word.
Yeah, that was one category. People with mental illness also go in there. So, I mean, there's clear. Listen, I'm not trying to be derogatory to anybody, but listen, what I call a spade, and there's some mental illness out here, people, and you all experienced it. I'm not preaching to the choir. So I just call a spade a spade. If you want somebody to come in and just tell you what the deal is, just call me. I'll just tell you.
I think, in the fairness to have all possible hypotheses, there is the chance that there could just be a good paycheck in it.
Oh, that part. Yeah, I'm not going after their intent. I really don't care. I just go after their argument, and they don't have an argument. They never did, never will. So it's really easy defending the truth, right? It's not that difficult, because you know they're lying, and you just have to find out where the lie is. That's it. It's that easy. So there you go. That's my philosopher. That's the philosopher in me, I guess.
Well, as an Elmer Fudd who likes to surround himself with people a lot smarter than he is, and then just keep his mouth shut, so people just think I'm part of that smart crowd. Just remember, there are going to be a lot of people out there that don't have your advanced understanding of all this, so you might have to dumb it down for some of us at some point, just as a heads up.
Yeah, but you don't need to be a rocket scientist with 90% of this. It's just launch pad security stuff, right? Yeah, and I'll break it down. I break it down as far as I can. And like I said, you really don't need anything all that more complicated than really the scientific method. And another important thing is to take a course in identifying logical fallacies. Because you're going to get bombarded with them out here, brother. That's my advice. The scientific method, and learn logical fallacies. It comes from experience too, just hearing it. Hearing the arguments over and over and over again, they're ridiculous. So that would be my advice. Like I said, it's not rocket science. It's just launch pad security.
John, real quick, there's a question in chat from Rune Thornson.
I know him.
If there was one point in the scientific method that you would consider crucial, which one would it be? Which one do you think is the most important that we get and understand the best?
Hypothesis.
That first step, imagine that.
No. Hypothesis. Third step.
Oh, third step. Hypothesis. Okay.
Yeah, just to learn how to make a hypothesis. That's all you need. If experiment is the king of the scientific method, the queen is hypothesis. It gives birth to the king. How about that? That was quite poetic.
That was a bit deep as well. That was a bit chicken and egg. It was a little metaphysical.
Oh, brother. Yeah. That's what I would say. Hypothesis. Once you figure out what a hypothesis is, and then everything flows from it, right? And it's not that hard. We'll go through a couple here in the presentation. It's really easy.
That's the best. That's the second best link I've
Second
heard.
best segue. Yeah, I was gonna say now. I think it'd be the best time to jump right.
So you guys just want me for my presentations, right?
Just get on with it.
I guess I ruined it.
Right, if you share that should. I'll transfer
All right.
it to full screen.
Let me
then,
try it.
John.
Oh, wait one. You tell me when it's up.
Okay, yeah, you're full screen, mate. All
Full
yours.
screen. We ready to go?
All yours, pal.
All right, listen, I usually start off with my paleontology, the pseudosciences, but I'm not going to start out with that this time. I'm going to start out with this. Now, 100% disclosure, I wrote this with an attitude, right? I looked over it yesterday and I said, I'm just going to let it go. So I'll try to be nicer I'll try to read it nicely. I don't think it comes across that well, but I'll stop after this to see if you guys have any comments on it. So, every flat earther needs to intently study, and this is Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, the Flat Earth Debates 343 and 344. Right? Going to write those down. In my humble opinion, it was the single greatest performance by a flat earther that I've ever witnessed. For the past, I've been here a little over 2 years now. I have never seen anything like it. This is the standard, right? So, like I was talking about before you go out and frequent these debate circles, just to hear your own voice and make a horse's ass out of yourself, and by proxy your fellow flat earthers, you need to listen to these two debate shows over and over again to permanently imprint this standard of performance in your mind. Now, if you can't reach this standard of performance, which admittedly is quite high, then shut your incoherent pie holes and remove yourself from debate right friggin' now. That goes for all you so-called 3+ year veterans also. We don't train to time here. We train to standards. Now, if I catch you out here pretending to be a neurosurgeon when your acumen can't exceed your true vocation, that's picking up cans alongside of the road, I'm going to get medieval on you. We tracking Sallies. So if you have an ounce of intellectual and emotional integrity, sit back, listen carefully, take notes, hit rewind multiple times, research, study, and prepare yourself thoroughly before you even consider coming out here. So for everything sacred and holy, if you've been out here pretender clowning, stop. I see you, okay? Just to let you know, I see you. I'm aware of you. Cease and desist. Now, many people might take that the wrong way. Listen, if you want to come out here and talk about cake decorating, right, or your favorite football team, and that's real football, man football, NFL football, not the girly football.
I'm not letting that slide. I'm not having that. We've been getting on fine, haven't we, really?
Now, if you want to come out here and you want to talk about that stuff and you want to talk to people and share your opinions and stuff, I have no problem with that. But don't you come out here friggin' embarrassing the flat earth community with your friggin' nonsense, right? That's fair. I think everyone can adjudicate those two things, right? I'm not telling you what to do with your opinions and stuff. We all got them. You can share them. I'm not telling you not to. You want to talk about flowers or cake decorating and stuff like that, just go do it. I don't care. That's fine. I may listen and, listen in. But don't come out here talking about science about your opinions, right? Or what you think it is, or parrot and wiki. Because I see you, right? You're not hiding. Any questions with this gentleman?
Nope, that's pretty straightforward.
No, sir.
I'm not trying to intimidate anyone. If you think that this is jacked up, go ahead and tell me.
No.
Am I wrong here or what?
Nope, the message is on point.
Yeah, don't let me intimidate you now.
I think
If you got an objection, you pipe up.
I think I was making a similar point in a less direct manner earlier.
Okay.
If you listen, yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't listen. I was eating.
I said you were having your tea.
It wasn't tea, it was pizza.
Oh, very nice.
Extra cheese, pepperoni, and mushrooms.
Yes, I could go a slice now, to be fair, John.
And it was late. Me and my son, we were dying. So, okay, any questions on this? This is pretty self-explanatory.
Yep.
All right. So now the good stuff, right? I always start off each presentation now talking about this because I feel it's very important, and it may open a lot of people's eyes to the fraud. Okay, so what we got here is we got paleontology, anthropology, archaeology, geology, evolutionary biology. Yeah, I'm still laughing. Theoretical physics, not experimental, and then astrophysics, astronomy, and cosmology. These are not frigging sciences, okay? Not sciences. They go by the term science, but they don't have anything to do with it. Crocheting is more scientific than these clowns combined. Why? The first 6 pretenders can't get to the first step of the scientific method. Science, observe a phenomenon without a time machine. The final 3 masqueraders, these guys, the ones that we deal with in this genre, they can't formulate scientific hypotheses because they lack viable independent variable. So, if you can't form a hypothesis, you can't isolate, test, and validate your dependent variables or your predictions. And we're going to discuss this here in a few minutes. That's a scientific hypothesis. It's a hard stop. Listen, if you're a banana, then a banana has certain characteristics or traits that it has to satisfy, right? Bananas, they grow on trees. They're green, yellow, purple, brown, red. They're chock full of complex carbohydrates and potassium. And if you put them in the freezer, it destroys the B6 in them. That's what makes bananas bananas and separates them from tumbleweeds. Okay? It's the same thing with science. If you don't have a hypothesis, independent, dependent variable, and an experiment, then it's not science. You can't just call it that by fiat. Don't do it, because if you do it around me, there's an ass whooping coming. Now, the true sciences are physics, that's quantum mechanics, genetics, chemistry, you H2O deniers out there, biochemistry, and biology. Now, I've started recently caveating this last guy because there's a difference between, molecular and cell biology and the convention categorizers, the collators. They're just glorified secretaries. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about molecular and cellular biology. These are the true sciences, right? They're the true sciences because they can use scientific method. And most of the time they do. As opposed to these clowns up here, they can't even get in. Like I said, the first 6 can't get into the scientific method to begin with. And the second group, astrophysics, astronomy, and cosmology, they can't formulate scientific hypotheses. So if you don't have a scientific hypothesis, you're not a banana. Period. End of story. I don't have to go on any further. Right? So there's another caveat here, too. Each claim from any of these disciplines must be accompanied by experiment, preferably repeated, validating each and every claim. If there's no experiment, even from these guys, no experiment, then it's horse bucky. You can dismiss it. right? However, all of the other things that these disciplines have validated via experiment are still good, right? They're good to go. So like I said, these are the sciences, right? And what happens here is that your war out there, flat earthers, isn't against these guys. How many of these guys are out there talking about spinning ball Earth? Not many, are there? Well, there's a reason for that, because they're in their lane, right? Dealing with science and experiment.
John, I like chemistry being in there, but you mentioned biochemistry and biology, but cellular biology particularly, and that, for me, was the big ball breaker for evolution. When I started to get into and look at cellular biology, it was the one thing that just made the silly little story, undetailed story of evolution just complete nonsense. The true wonder of cellular biology is just.
I can remember back in the day taking an 80 level, when I first started out, taking an 80 level biology course, looking through a microscope. I can't remember the cell I was looking at, and seeing all the processes and stuff. And I looked up and I said, I said this to myself. I didn't need to say it to anybody. If you don't think there's a God, you must be an abject moron. I mean, that's what I remember saying it to myself, and I already knew that before I got in there, but I can remember saying it to myself and just moving on. But I agree with you, Adam. Yeah, most definitely. Now, like I said, the war isn't with these guys, so don't try to challenge these guys, Mr. friggin' H2O, water. Don't do it, because you're going to get jacked up. You're going to get hit in the head with a nail-spike Louisville 44-inch Louisville slugger, right? Like what's happening to you now. I don't know who brought this nonsense up, and I don't really care, right? Bring that H2O weak meat around me, and I'll friggin' jack it yard. Moron.
We specifically scheduled them on a separate week for what it's worth.
Yeah, I hope they're listening. All right, like I said, I'm getting off the path here. Okay, like I said, each of these disciplines need experiment, right? You got to have experiment. Experiment is king of science. So, also, do not fallaciously indict these sciences, the true sciences, by what the baloney that comes out of these guys. See, you're in a category error. These aren't sciences, so don't put these guys in the science category and say, well, since these guys been lying and make up stuff, then therefore these aren't true, right? It's non sequitur from the Black Lagoon. Don't do it. I mean, most of the technology and stuff, I don't know. Can you tell me the MRI machine that anthropology has put forward? When you get these clowns saying, yeah, well, science, we have all this technology. It's what you're science deniers. Oh, really? Like I said, where's the MRI machine from paleontology, right? Or evolutionary biology? Where's that at? Right? There is none, because these are clowns, right? All that technology's coming from this guy right here, right? All the medical and genetics is coming from the true sciences, not from these guys. So come on, people. Don't just parrot the company line. Think on your feet. All right, into the science. Any questions on this, gentlemen?
No, I think I'd echo the point, John, as you're saying there, that as you've titled them there, the true sciences, they're the ones that produce the technology for people to craft stories.
Well, they validate their hypotheses via experiment. That's science. Now, what engineers do, they take what the scientists have validated, and then the engineers take that and produce technology. So science and technology are different, right? Mm-hmm. Be careful of that, because a lot of engineers think they're scientists, right? I got a news flash for them, right? So I love those engineers. Not that we don't need them. Engineers are great, man. They're smart people. right? We need those guys. It's just not science. So don't be masquerading. All right, here, this is science, right? Science is nothing more than a method of inquiry. That's it. That's all it is. This is from Michael Crichton, testimony before the U.S. Senate Committee in 2005. That's all it is. That's it. All right? Scientific evidence from the law dictionary. So I have to bring out law dictionaries and stuff. See, scientific evidence, the testing of a hypothesis or theory that is objective and in a controlled environment. It's pretty easy, right? You see any equations and models and pictures in here? I didn't think so. So stop with this nonsense. And this is another big one. Well, you're just being semantic. You're just too semantic. No, from physics about. Words have precise meanings in science. You have to be very precise when you speak. It's the nature of the beast. And here it is. Let me knock this down. This is what I seen in 5th grade, right here. You guys see this? So, the scientific method. Now, I highlighted the 4 of them because that's what we want to deal with. I'm not saying that the other 3 aren't important. They're just the 4 that stand out. So, observe a natural phenomenon, construct a formal hypothesis, test experiment, and validate invalidate hypothesis. That's pretty much it. Literature, out of all of them, literature review is pretty important. When you observe a phenomenon, you want to do a literature review. That is, you want to go in and find out as much information as can be found on the topic that you're focusing on, right? Just makes sense. You don't want to observe a phenomenon and then just go in a vacuum and do your experiment and stuff. Why? Somebody may have already done it, right? Or if they haven't did it, you gather as much information as you can. And let me tell you something. This is a really important step. You know why? Because if you're in a lab, let's say you're in a lab and you decide, well, I'm going to conduct this experiment. You don't do any literature review, right? And you start conducting the experiment. You got all these man hours, right? And all the time spent, and all the money spent on the equipment, right? And then you go ahead and perform the experiment, and it's done. And here comes your boss, right? Now, let me tell you something. If he finds out that you didn't do step number 2, and the experiment's already been done, and you just redid the experiment, wasted a whole bunch of time, man hours, money, right? You're going to be picking up cans alongside of the road before you can say independent variable. Just so we're tracking, right? So these guys are important too. I just didn't highlight, right? And they're echoed from the University of Rochester, basically saying the same thing. They boil them down to 4 steps. Observation of it should be natural phenomenon, because these crayon munchers, they don't even know what science is. Science is a study of nature. Formulation of hypothesis, experimental test, you got it. That's what science is. This is one of the most important statements, right? Again, from the University of Rochester, the scientific method distinguishes science. Now, it's distinguishing it from other forms of explanation because of its requirement of what? Systematic experimentation. That's what sets it apart. So if you don't have an experiment, you're not doing science. I don't know how. This is a great statement. I love this statement, right? It's apodictic, but many people don't think about it, right? They think their explanation is science because maybe they have some initials behind their name or something. I don't know. They must be drunk. This is very easy if it doesn't have experiment, right? The king of the scientific method, it's not science. So, experiment. What is it? Well, it's a hypothesis test. So, from Luar's Introduction to Theory and Application of Molecular and Quantum Mechanics, the final arbiter of truth in science is experiment. Duh. From the chair of physics at Yale, the only way things change in physics is experiment. Everything is based on experiment. That's the only way we change our mind. Duh. From Richard Feynman. If it doesn't agree with experiment, it's wrong. And that simple statement is the key to science. Duh. From Max Planck. Experiment is the only means of knowledge at our disposal. Everything else is poetry, imagination. Duh. That's what we hear. Every day we hear poetry and imagination. The scientific method requires that a hypothesis be ruled out or modified if its predictions are clearly and repeatedly incompatible with what? Experimental tests. No matter how elegant your theory is, it must agree with experiment. Experiment is supreme. Experimental verification of hypothetical predictions is absolutely necessary, right? I don't know how this can get any clearer. What constitutes an experiment? Well, from Penn State University, there should be 3 categories of variables in every experiment: the dependent, independent, and control. All right? From explorable.com, their research institution, there are 3 important variables you have to remember when you're designing your experiment. What are they? A shocking surprise: independent, dependent, and control. Even a wiki experiment. An experiment is a procedure carried out to support, refute, or validate a hypothesis. Duh. Experiments provide insight into cause and effect by demonstrating what outcome occurs when a particular factor is being manipulated. What's that particular factor being manipulated? Pray tell. Right? It's your independent variable. Duh. So, like I said, if experiment is the king of the scientific method, the queen is the scientific hypothesis. It gives birth to the experiment. You have to have a hypothesis before you have an experiment. A scientific hypothesis is your experiment statement. It expresses a testable proposed cause and effect relationship. If it's not cause and effect relationship, if it's not a cause and effect question, it's not a scientific question. That should turn on some lights for a lot of people, hopefully. So it's a cause and effect relationship, the one you observed in step 1. You observed the phenomenon. Now you're trying to find the cause of that effect. It's a classic if this, then that motif. So, from Nature, California Institute of Technology physicist Sean Carroll, arguing in the Edge that hypotheses aren't simply useful tools in some potentially outmoded vision of science. They are the whole point. Duh. Why does he even need to say this? I mean, Sean Carroll, he's about as clueless as they come, but he still knows, right? It's the whole point. The scientific method requires that a hypothesis be ruled out or modified if its predictions are clearly incompatible with experimental tests. We already went over that one. From Colorado State, a scientific hypothesis, a special kind of prediction that forecasts how the independent variable will affect the dependent variable. Well, that's saying that to have a scientific prediction, not a Mystic Meg prediction, not a Nostradamus prediction or a carnival tent prediction, you must have an independent and dependent variable, period, end of story, have a nice day. A scientific from Cambridge, a scientific hypothesis is based on what? Well, the experiment is testing cause and effect, and it's the king. It's born from scientific hypotheses, the queen. If the experiment is cause and effect, you bet your bottom dollar the hypothesis has to deal with cause and effect too, right? What a shocking surprise. Scientific hypothesis is based on cause and effect reasoning. Duh. Right? The scientific method is hypothesis-driven. Duh. From Geosociety, from the Nature of Science and the Scientific Method. The hypothesis should also contain a prediction about its verifiability. For example, if the hypothesis is true, then 1 should happen when 2 is manipulated. The first blank, number 1, is the dependent variable. It depends on what you're doing in the second blank. And the second blank, number 2, is the independent variable. This is what you manipulate to get a reaction. There should be no other variables in the experiment that may affect the dependent variable, right? What's ironic about this, geology isn't science, right? But they know the lingo, they just don't apply it. This is all correct. You couldn't get any more correct than this, right? They're just pseudoscience. They don't actually employ this. They know it, though, and they tell you that they do it. They give you these definitions like that and say, wow, then geology, they're right. Geology must be science. No. So, independent variables, what are they? From Penn State, it is what is varied during an experiment. It is what the investigator thinks will affect the dependent variable. From Colorado State, the independent or manipulated variable. Variable that is changed by the scientist, what the investigator is testing. From Physics About, the two main variables in an experiment are the independent and dependent variable. An independent variable is the variable that is changed or controlled in a scientific experiment. You see the common theme going on here? From University of North Carolina, in an experiment, the independent variable is the variable that is varied or manipulated by the researcher. Shocking, what a surprise. And the dependent variable is the response that is measured. An independent variable is the presumed cause, whereas the dependent variable is the presumed effect. In other words, the independent variable is the antecedent, whereas the DV or the dependent variable is the consequent. So let's take a look at an example here. This is very important. So, hypothesis, if vitamin C intake is crucial to collagen integrity in humans, then eliminating vitamin C intake will cause scurvy. Now, my independent variable here is vitamin C. Now, vitamin C is the presumed cause. However, vitamin C isn't a presumption. I'm not presuming vitamin C exists. I have it. I can physically manipulate vitamin C. There's some out there in my kitchen. I know what it is. I can grab it, right? So it isn't a presumption in and of itself. It's your presumed cause. Big difference. Big difference, right? I hope you guys caught that. We might need to come back here. You might make a mental note of that. Also, remember, viable independent variables must satisfy 3 criterion. Now, I used to say 2 criterion, but I've been attacked by crayon munchers, so I added number 3. So, number 1, it's your presumed cause. Number 2, the researcher must be able to vary and manipulate it. Number 3, the independent variable must demonstrably exist before you use it in an experiment, okay? I added number 3. This is the crayon muncher special at the bottom, okay? Just to tie off any loose ends. So all 3 criterion must be satisfied. All of these must be satisfied, not just one of them. Now, a new kid on the block. This is so incoherent. I couldn't believe somebody tried to do this to me, and then somebody caught a hold of what he said. He did it on one of Nathan's Hangout, and then the other ones just started parroting, height, depth, width, length. No, these are not viable independent variables, for goodness sakes, right? Number 1, the submarine was crushed at a depth of 10,000 feet, right? Well, did depth cause the sub to implode, or was it pressure? You see? The gentleman was so obese, he measured 1 meter wide. Well, did width cause obesity or laziness combined with excessive calories? Does time cause the sun to rise? Does time cause the difference between the scores between the first and third quarters? You see how silly this is? Abject silliness. I don't know what to say to this. So when you have your hypothesis, you always have to have its brother, and that's the null hypothesis. And what is that? Well, from California State University. To do a hypothesis test, that's experiment, you will actually have to have two hypotheses, the null hypothesis and the alternative. These are stated in such a way that they are mutually exclusive. You can't have both hypotheses be true. The null hypothesis is the conclusion that is considered the default. You will accept this hypothesis if you fail to find sufficient support for the alternative hypothesis. We're going to go over a couple examples here so you'll get a feel for it. Again, the null hypothesis, the zero difference or no difference, that's what null means, no difference, predicts that changing one variable, the independent variable, will have no effect on the variable being measured, dependent variable. So the alternative and the null hypotheses are stated in such a way that they are mutually exclusive. Both can't be true. So let's go over an example. So, but remember the scientific method, the first step is observe a phenomenon. So healthy type 1 diabetics suffer from diabetic ketoacidosis, apparently from the absence of adequate insulin. So our alternative hypothesis, given otherwise healthy type 1 diabetes patients, the lack of insulin will lead to diabetic ketoacidosis. Now, let's take a look at the null. It's the same exact thing as the alternative hypothesis, right? Except for, or besides, instead of will, the independent variable will not lead to diabetic ketoacidosis. It's just that simple. Just mirror it and just change these two words or these two phrases right here to will, positive to a negative, and you're good to go. So the dependent variable or our prediction is diabetic ketoacidosis. Why? That was our observed phenomenon. Your dependent variable is always your observed phenomenon. And the independent variable of the cause is obviously insulin. So let me summarize this. Doesn't look good. It's not fitting on the screen. 1 second. Aha. So in conclusion, this is how they look. Alternative is independent variable plus the dependent variable equals prediction of cause and effect. The null is the independent variable plus the dependent variable equals prediction of no cause and effect. Your experiment is the independent variable plus the dependent variable, plus there's an addition, controlled variables, like we discussed above, that equals prediction of cause and effect. There it is right there, folks. That's science right there, but that's it. Now, I brought this up earlier. This is really good. And this is from the University of Rochester Physics Lab again. Common mistakes in applying the scientific method. Let's just cut to the chase. The most fundamental error is to mistake the hypothesis for an explanation of a phenomenon without performing experimental tests, right? Your common sense, like it says, sometimes common sense and logic tempt us into believing that no test is needed. Well, you're on shrooms. To be science, you have to test it. And like today, they didn't even give us a hypothesis, did they? They just gave us this. It's a joke. It's a joke. I don't need your just so story. I can make one up just like you. Right? I don't need that. I need the hypothesis, and then I need an explanation. That's the experiment validating it. That's what I need. If you ain't giving me this, don't waste your time, right? Don't waste your time. You're just keeping me away from more important things like cleaning the bathroom. Now, another important thing. Every single claim from the ball-tard spinning space monkey religion, it comes as an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. And I know you guys heard this before because Nathan's been telling, right?
Well, this is my favourite one that Nathan changed, isn't it? This is the one that changed from if full to if drunk. Because of the...
Oh, yeah, the alcohol. He did it. That's a really good example. Right. So it's real easy. They all take this form. It's if P, then Q, Q, therefore P. And, of course, I got fairy tale evolution because evolutionists do this like It's mind-numbing. Everything they say is an affirming consequence. But here's an example. If evolution is true, P, then you can insert any Darwinian grab bag post hoc observations, fossils, homology, similarity, genetic variation, Q. We observe the post hoc observation, Q. Therefore, evolution is true. Therefore, P. That's a joke, right? And the ballers do the same thing. Here we go. If the spherical Earth with a radius of la 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 is true, P, we will observe differing elevation angles of the stars, la la la, whatever, Q. We observe differing elevation angles of the stars, Q. Therefore, the spherical Earth is true. Therefore, P, right? It's ridiculous because the logical fallacy is that P doesn't necessarily follow from Q. Example, if I had just eaten a whole pizza, P, I would feel very full, Q. I feel very full, Q. Therefore, I've just eaten a whole pizza. Therefore, P. Right? It's ridiculous. Instead of the pizza, couldn't I have eaten a 20-ounce ribeye with fries or the old 96er? Right? Prove your spherical Earth first. Then we can talk. Right? Other than that, this is a train wreck, man. Train wreck stuff. Right? But you have to be able to think on your feet and be able to identify it when they come out with this stuff, especially when they're talking real fast. But I'll tell you what, every single one boils down to this. Every single one. I haven't heard one that hasn't, unless they're truly incoherent. They're just non sequiturs from the get-go. They all boil down to this. So if there's one fallacy you need to learn, it's this one. It's got an incoherent brother, too. It's called denying the antecedent. We won't get into that one today. Okay, that's the science presentation. Let me hold up right there.
Yeah, let's breathe. I saw Bolivian Salt Flats going, I was going to get... Mate, that was wicked. Wicked. Great.
I went through it pretty quickly, but I don't know. You guys, don't let me intimidate you now. If there's something that you say, well, wait a second, this guy's talking bollocks. Stop me.
No, I'm not. I'm just... For me, it's not talking bollocks. It's reminding of how harsh the rules of science are in terms of what they demand for proof. Like I said, that was a good refresher. I do like the last bit, to be honest with you. Like I said, I prefer the phrase, if I've drunk 10 whiskies, I feel very drunk. I feel very drunk. Did I scare somebody away? Somebody left. No, Walt Central Eaton's, his aircon's gone doolally.
No, Walt sends his best. He had some company and had to disappear for a little bit, but he will be back. You did not scare anybody away.
All right, good. Okay, you want to take just a small little break before we get into the proofs?
Well, let's scroll back up a little bit.
Sure. Where at?
Let's start step one, right? So we're going to observe a natural phenomenon.
Okay.
So we're going to start applying this because this was made mention in chat. What would make you think then that water comes from H2O? So let's just go ahead and apply sort of this scientific method to determining water is comprised of H2O.
Okay.
Can we just walk through it real quick? No,
not a problem. Yeah. Observe a natural phenomenon, huh?
Yep.
Well, we observe water. Right? So we got the water part.
Well, I think I actually did cover this, John, it is the experiment. I mean, the experiment in itself. So the natural phenomenon you would observe is that if you apply a current to a very dilute mixture of sulfuric acid.
Yeah, I don't think he's there yet. Who asked that first question?
Well, this was from chat. This is Josh. I was just kind of pulling it from chat. They were just I don't know if they're still sort of sticking up, I think, for some of these people that are into this whole water thing. Or I don't know exactly what it was going on, but it just seemed like it would be a good thing to at least primer ourselves for an upcoming discussion. On
and that was a really good question. You know why? Now that I'm thinking about this, and when you said it, I said, "Uh-oh." Because we're going. This is a cold call. Okay, so you said water. We're observing water, right? That's not a phenomenon. That's a concrete noun, right?
Gotcha.
Right. So, right there, it couldn't fit because it's not. You didn't observe. Now, if you observe like hydrogen gas and lightning hitting that hydrogen gas, and then a big explosion and a whole bunch of water falling on you, that's a different story, right? Right? Could you see where I'm headed with this?
Nope. Yeah, I see that.
But from just looking at water, you can't enter the method just yet.
Gotcha.
Was that where you were headed with it?
Sort of. I think maybe that was where the guy in chat was headed with it, but I think that was sort of his full stop right there.
That was pretty smart. Who did that? State the name.
Ooh, wow! I'd have to really scroll.
Don't. If you have to do a lot of work, then don't. Whoever did it, man, thumbs up to you. You caught it. See, they're getting smart. These guys. This might be dangerous telling these people this, man. They're getting smart, so he's correct. From that standpoint, it can't enter it yet. It can't enter the method yet because there is no phenomenon. However, that doesn't mean that we can't identify the makeup of water. Of course, water is a compound, not an element. Okay? You know, pull up the periodic table of elements, and I realize we're just going off arbitrary definitions, but that's the definitions that we're working with in chemistry. I want somebody to pull up a periodic table of elements and show me water. Please. Right? It's moronic. It's not an element. Now, if you want to go down your alchemy, 13th century alchemy train wreck and make up definitions, be my guest. Right? An element has a certain definition. A compound has another different definition. Right? Am I off the reservation here?
Nope.
Do I need to go back and take general chemistry again?
Again, it's a shame you missed it's a shame you had a late tea. It's exactly what I was saying. There's a difference between.
You already went over this?
No, it was the same comment I made, that there's a difference between an alchemical concept of water where it would be considered elemental and one that's contained within the periodic table, which is, our understanding of what we would class, as you would class, chemistry on that previous list.
Now, in alchemy, water is actually one of the four forces. It's not an element.
Yeah,
they call it an element, but it's different.
Right, gotcha. Yep. Earth, wind, and fire, right, and water.
Yeah, not so much wind. They call it air, but yeah, same concept.
I was thinking of the band. I think they had one or two good songs, if I'm not mistaken.
We need one.
Can't recall. Yep. Is there any other questions on the science part? Anyone from chat? Anything that we could talk about?
Have you just got back, Zach? Are you back in Wi-Fi zone?
Not so much Wi-Fi, but I have a connection to where I could actually. Cool. It's not skipping around. Yeah, I'm taking Hank to the park, the local elementary school here. Gotta get him some exercise in for the day.
So I have a question.
Sure.
SZ CZ UD
What in the world? Was that the question?
Well, so far, this is John in chat, and I'm trying to spell his last name without even attempting and effing it up 6 ways to Sunday. Okay, so I'm just wondering if maybe anybody else might have an attempt at a pronunciation of that last name. Or maybe John and Chet, if you could maybe write it out phonetically for my slow ass, that would be awesome too.
I'm going to go with Suzlik.
That's almost where I was. Yeah, maybe it's so hard because it just doesn't roll out of the tongue. You almost gotta force it out your mouth.
Does he have a question?
Sudlik, he said. Perfect.
That I may answer or can answer. If I can, I will.
He was the one that had brought up the water question.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, I got you. Okay. Yeah. Good darn question, man. He's all over it. He's right. He's correct. I know where he's going with it. Yep. That wouldn't do it.
So I guess now Dr. Hugo Bones in chat basically asking a similar question is, can we apply the scientific method to prove the composition of water?
It can't enter the scientific method unless you get hydrogen gas with a spark and you get rained on.
Gotcha.
So my answer to that would probably be no. However,
I can.
I can, right. Now, is it in the realm of possibility that could happen? Yeah. But just looking at water, no. However, you can discover the composition of stuff. It doesn't have to enter the scientific method. I can tell what the composition of a gummy bear is without getting into the scientific method, right? I just identify its constituent parts. It does. Okay, this is a good point. Thanks for bringing this up. There are different methods to getting at truth, okay? One is the scientific method. And remember I said, the scientific method only adjudicates cause and effect questions, right? So if it's not a cause and effect question, like if the Earth is a sphere, the Earth is flat, the Earth is spinning or not spinning, those aren't cause and effect questions. Those are what is questions. Therefore, nothing, and this is what these ballers can't get, and it cracks me up. Those can't enter the scientific method. There is no science to that. Okay, none of it. Flat, spinning, sphere. Those are what is questions. They can't enter the scientific method. It's tantamount to asking why a bread box is rectangular, true or false. Right? It's non sequitur. It doesn't make any sense. Now, like I said, there's different methods to getting at truth. One is the scientific method. The other is logic. The other is logic combined with known scientific principles. And number 4, I'm a Christian, so scripture is my method to truth. I've already validated that, right? So I have 4 ways to get at truth. Other people might just have 3. All I want to do is to stress that the scientific method isn't the only way to get at truth. Any questions about that?
Nope.
Okay.
Love it.
That's a really good question. I'm glad he brought it up.
With regards to the specific problem, I think it's impossible to do one specific scientific experiment to prove the point. It would require 3 or 4 because within what we've discussed in terms of the water production and hydrogen.
We're still on the water.
Yeah, I'm using. Well, we're still there. We're using it as an analogy. To prove something like that, a single experiment doesn't. You need to validate all components of the assumptions you're making. So you tend to have to make.
Well, wait a second. Okay, let's do the thing that I did back in 5th grade. He came around. I remember him coming around. It's a little hazy because it's 5th grade. It's way many moons have passed. I can remember having hydrogen in a test tube. I can remember holding the test tube, and I can't even remember what little spark thing. A little spark thing that they give you, right? You squeeze it, it sparks.
Yeah.
I can't remember. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the igniter for the Bunsen's.
Yeah, igniter for the Bunsen burner, exactly. We used that because we were poor out in the country.
You didn't have splints, wooden splints. Shocking.
Yeah, right. So, and all we did was crack it. I can remember it was an explosion. It's exothermic reaction, right? And water was in the test tube after it. All right. We took all of it. We poured it out. made another bigger test tube with the product of the reaction, and he drank it. Right? There was no water in there before. Now, I don't know. Do I have to get this notarized? Didn't we all do this before? Am I special? I mean, come on.
I don't think I've done it. I don't remember
Really?
seeing this done in, well, I've smoked a lot of weed between now and
Hey,
then.
listen,
It's
listen.
possible, but I
Listen.
don't necessarily remember.
Listen, I lost more than most people smoke. Okay, but maybe, I don't know, maybe I was the only one. I remember doing it. It was way back there, dude, way back in the day.
That said, I will not discount the fact you are definitely special, John. Don't let anybody tell you different.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. Trying to manipulate me already.
Well,
Don't be
that's it.
blowing sunshine over this way.
All I said was special. You're unique, just like everybody else.
Yeah, right. Yeah, everybody gets a trophy, right? Not in this house.
You're gonna fail. You're gonna fail miserably.
Yeah, that's right. You ain't getting nothing, maybe a spanking. All right, any other questions before we move on to the... Yeah, let me go back down. So the 4 proofs, right? You like my 4 proofs, didn't you?
Well, I think considering your stringent criteria, it's going to be good fun to look at these now. This is...
Yeah, because remember what I said. I said that that flat or sphere Earth cannot enter the scientific method because those questions, well, is the Earth flat or is the Earth a sphere? Are those cause and effect question or what is question? Right? They're what is questions. That means they can't enter the scientific method. However, what did I say to get a truth that you could use? Logical consistency with scientific principles established, right? They're not as sexy as scientific evidence, but I'll tell you what, they got teeth. And you're going to feel them here in a couple minutes if there's any globetards out there. These proofs are irrefutable. You cannot refute them, all right? They've gone through my personal crucible. You cannot refute them. No one has refuted them in 2 years. I've given these to secular astrophysicists, and you know what they did? They called me names. That's how I know they can't be refuted. You can try. I know all your little silly arguments for each one. I'm waiting for you with the nail-spiked Louisville Slugger sitting right here. So bring it on, meat. Okay, we ready?
Yep. Take it in.
All right, the Bolivian Salt Flats. This is one of these, man. I'll tell you what, look at this. I even took this as my icon. I loved it, right? It's absolutely beautiful, man. Breathtaking out there. Like I said, I'd like to get on one of the bucket lists. I'd like to get there. Probably won't, right? Because I'm an old fart. I don't want to travel anymore. I'm tired of that nonsense. But this is gorgeous, man. And it's not only gorgeous, it pummels the globetard religion. Why? According to the heliocentric, sun-worshipping, spinning ball space monkey religion, every point along a tangent in every direction from your feet drops. That's vertical drop away from you at 8 inches per mile squared, right? We all know this. So the Salar in the Bolivian Andes is the largest salt flat, that's a key word, on Earth. Here comes the next dagger. Exhibiting less than 1 meter of vertical relief over an area of 9,000 square kilometers, right? I don't even have to go any further than this. I shouldn't even have to explain anything. All I need is this vertical drop and no vertical drop, and you guys should already get it, right? It's that easy, but I won't. This is a geometrical flat plane. right? It's just what it is. They don't have to say it is. Its constituents make it that. If you got 1 meter vertical relief, less than 1 meter vertical relief, it's a geometrical flat plane. Duh. You can have a myriad of topographical features on a sphere. That's mountains, ridges, saddles, spurs, depressions. You know what you can't have? A geometrical flat plane, and this one is over 9,000 square kilometers. It's over. Therefore, how can you stage 5 cling with a kung fu death grip to your fairy tale religion that has one of its foundational tenets, vertical drop, and yet at the same time have a flat plane with less than 1 meter vertical drop? You can't have it. It's standing contradiction on its face, right? During one of the measurements from north to south, there's 100 kilometers or 62 miles measurement, and the vertical drop should be 781 meters during the length of that. It's just that simple. But there's less than 1 meter vertical drop. So unless you can show me the 780 meters missing vertical drop, you live in or on a fairy tale, the end.
Reflection.
And let me stop right here. Okay, I'm going through these 4 proofs. I forgot this. I'm going through these 4 proofs, and I've given these 4 proofs like, I don't know, 20, 30 times in the past 2 years, right? Maybe you have seen them before I got them, okay? This absolutely drives me nuts. I have a new experiment. Number one, it's not an experiment. To prove the flat Earth. Why? I've got the 4 right here. What do you want to beat the dead horse some more? Don't go out there chasing. You don't have to do anything. What do you want to prove it more? I know this is going to shock some people. Just use these 4. They're very easy to understand. I've already done all the legwork. Just use these 4. I didn't copyright them. Not yet. Go ahead and use these, guys. That's why I do it. Use it. All the stuff I put out, I want you to use it. Not just me, everyone. Right? They're not mine. Does everyone understand that? Am I off the reservation with this?
Nope. You're right there.
Yeah. Don't conjure up anymore. I mean, go ahead. If you want to do it just, for fun, for shits and giggles, go ahead. You don't need them. I can stop right here. I can just stop right here. I don't have to go any further for a flat Earth. I really don't. How can you reconcile? Am I missing something here? What am I missing?
Like personal proof, I think there's additional benefit to, if you look at the things like on lakes and stuff and experiments and the way it gathers.
Those aren't experiments.
I didn't say scientific experiments. I'm trying to pick my words. I think there's merit in them, if for nothing else than community, but there might be definitive proof. I think
I already got the definitive proof right here.
Number 2 or B. What's B?
These are pragmatic, right? These proofs are pragmatic. All my proofs are pragmatic, except for the last one. We'll get to that. But these are pragmatic. I mean, they're practical. The work's already been done. Right? Okay, let's go. I know you want. Let me move on. Let me get off my soapbox. All right, this is another one. I ain't gonna say my favorite. They're all my favorite. So the evolved Sea Sparrow missile. Right? Here's a picture of it. Now notice 2 things. In the calculations below, I used 80 feet elevation above sea level. Now, I don't know, my eyes may be getting bad, I'm getting old. But that sure doesn't look like 80 feet up to the missile, does it? Right? Number 2, you see this contraption at the bottom right here? These are the target illumination radars. This one is a target illumination radar right here. Right down there. Right? That's going to become very important here in a second. Characteristics of the Evolved Sea Sparrow Missile Block 1. Primary function, surface-to-air and surface-to-surface radar-guided missile. My number 1 comeback to this argument is it's not a surface-to-air surface-guided missile. It's surface to air. Even after I show them this, right? It's from the Navy, for crying out loud. The range is more than 35 miles. It's at least 35 miles. The rest is classified. Now, listen closely. It's going to come screaming at you. The missile receives a reflected signal from a target that is being illuminated with an RF signal transmitted from a fire control radar on a standoff platform. Such systems require, that means it's absolutely necessarily needed, that the platform maintain, here's the rub, line of sight to the target until it is engaged by the missile. So if you look at this, and then you look at that, and you think you live on a fairy tale spinning ball, you got major problems, right? The target is illuminated with a 2-degree RF pencil beam, which has to be maintained, painted on the target until detonation. At a more than generous 80 feet, I gave them 80 feet above sea level. That's the target illumination radar height. Using the affirming the consequent perspective hijacking, angular size change blinded, bulge compensating, willful diffraction limit ignorant, proof of nothing, Willie Yankin circle jerk calculator. I even used theirs. Okay?
That gets longer every time, doesn't it, that description?
Longer every time.
The target should be hidden behind 385 feet of curvature. Now, ball tards, you have to explain how you can have line of sight 35 miles away on a spinning ball by showing how a 2-degree RF pencil beam can penetrate 385 feet of water, that's 117 meters, of target hidden height through a wall of water 24 miles in length. Good luck. Best wishes. It'd be easier resurrecting Alexander the Great's horse, right? And remember, I said for PS, 35 miles is lowballing because the official max effective range is classified. It's much greater than 35 miles. So, in summary, the Evolved Sea Sparrow missile mass effective range is greater than 35 miles. Surface targets are engaged by the Evolved Sea Sparrow missile, and one of the big targets that they do engage are sea skimmers, right? The sea skimming missiles. Now, they're not technically surface targets. However, they're only 10 to 30 feet off the deck. So for all intents and purposes, they can be considered surface targets. You guys follow me with that?
Yep, I'm right there.
Okay. To engage the target, it must be illuminated by the RF pencil beam, which are governed by the target illumination radars I showed you above. That means it must have line of sight. The target illumination radar must be on the same ship, that's the launch ship, as the missile. We're going to get to that here in a second. So, in conclusion, either the Evolved Sea Sparrow missile, that's the ESSM Block 1, exists, or the spinning ball religion exists. Both can't be true. The end. Okay? Now, one of the major comebacks besides the doofus argument from above, it's a surface-to-air missile only, quantum. The other argument is, well, can't the target illumination radars be like 3 miles away on another ship and have another ship 35 miles away shoot the missile? No. Watch. From Raytheon, unlike the RIM 7 Sea Sparrow and the Evolved Sea Sparrow missile Block 1, what we're talking about, unlike those, the new Block 2's active seeker will support terminal engagement without the launch ship's target illumination radars. You see it? You see it? That means this guy must have the target illumination radars on the launch ship. Kaboom. And this is the Evolved Sea Sparrow missile, the Block 2. It's an improved short-range missile. However, this won't be fielded until 2020. It's in testing right now, with 80 missiles going to the fleet. So it's not It's not out there just yet for the military. However, the first production, and now we're talking about my argument, the Evolved Sea Sparrow Missile Block 1 was delivered in late 2002 to the Navy by Raytheon and has been in full operational use since 2004. So, please tell me how the Evolved Sea Sparrow Missile Block 1 has been engaging surface-based targets at more than 35 miles with the target illumination radars on ships for the past 14 years. The spinning ball religion is dead, the end. I can't break this down any further. Why do we need any more tests? They already did it. The U.S. government. Thank you very much. Right? I know. People have to go outside. It's a business now.
I think that's probably a flat earther's reason for doing the tests, is that data's controlled by the US government.
Yeah, but it's not in a vacuum. You've got actual soldiers dealing with these things. I was a soldier. Does that mean I'm corrupt? Don't answer that. So here's another good one. I love this one. The Earth is not spinning. You get all kind of crayon munchers out here that don't know what the Coriolis effect is, right? You guys heard it. I know you did. Hopefully you're not one of those parroting in this nonsense, right? Hopefully you guys know what the Coriolis effect is. It's not what you think it is. I'll tell you that much. So, for the Coriolis effect to exist, you must have, that is the necessary condition, two different frames of reference. One rotating coordinate system, that's non-inertial, that's the Earth, and one non-rotating coordinate system, that's the inertial, that's the atmosphere, and everything in it. So, from Seagar Douglas, Introduction to Ocean Sciences. This is a university-level textbook. This is the second edition critical concept reminders. So this is critical. When set in motion, freely moving objects, including air, that's the atmosphere, and water masses, that's clouds and water vapor, move in straight paths while the Earth continues to do what? Rotate independently. Because freely moving objects are not carried with the Earth as it rotates, they are subject to an apparent deflection called the Coriolis effect. You see this apparent deflection, or the word apparent? This means in science, not really. Okay? To an observer rotating with the Earth, freely moving objects that travel in a straight line appear to travel in a curved path. So, let's go to the retarded wiki link. I have it all set. Let's go to the Crayon Munchers Wiki Warrior site, right? Gives a diagram for anybody that's a little slow. Now, that definition described what this is illustrating, right? So let's say you're this guy up here. You're rotating with the rotating reference frame, and a ball is thrown, and it's off the rotating reference frame. It's separate. This ball's going straight, right? However, and you can look down here, because you're rotating here, this ball appears to curve. It ain't curving. It's going straight. But because you're rotating, it appears to curve, right? That's the Coriolis effect. That's what this definition is saying. Now, if you don't like that definition, let's go to Encyclopedia Britannica. Let's see if we can echo some of the statements. So, within its rotating coordinate system, the object acted on by the Coriolis effect, oh my God, appears to deflect. Oh, it says the same thing. It must be a dang conspiracy. The object acted on by the Coriolis effect appears to deflect off its path of motion. This deflection is not real. Does everyone see that? I just told you that with the definition of apparent. It's not real. It only appears to happen because the coordinate system that establishes a frame of reference for the observer is also rotating, just like I showed you with the illustration. Now, from the University of Oregon, the effect of the Coriolis effect is, oh my God, it said it again. Oh no. It's an apparent deflection off the path of an object that moves within a rotating coordinate system. The object does not actually deviate from its path. Why? Well, because it's apparent. But it appears, oh, it says appears again, to do so because of the motion of the coordinate system. Okay, now, I just wanted to stress that part. That part is not part of my argument, okay? I just want to let everyone know what the Coriolis effect is, okay? So, clouds rotating, clouds don't apparently deflect, okay? So every time somebody says that this is the Coriolis effect and this is the Coriolis effect, it's not. So pay attention to this argument. This is really clever, right? I'm patting myself on the back for this one. I love this one. So what's rotating in our scenario here? Well, the Earth is rotating. B, what's moving independent of the rotating Earth? Well, the atmosphere. We already established that there's two independent frames of reference. So not only is the atmosphere not rotating, everything or every freely moving object in it doesn't rotate with the Earth. That's bullets, planes, balloons, whatever. Freely moving objects, like I said, are not carried with the Earth as it rotates. That's what the definition just said. Now, if the Coriolis effect is true, and it is, because we can test it on a merry-go-round, right? Then it's necessary conditions A and B from above that afford the existence are therefore true. So what I'm doing is I'm using the Coriolis causes as the foundation of my argument. Not the effect, the Coriolis causes. So if A and B are true, and they are, if there's a rotating reference frame, then a flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to LA, nonstop, traveling at 500 miles per hour airspeed, with both locations roughly at the 35th degree north latitude, that is, they're both allegedly spinning at 860 miles an hour, should be 1.5 hours. But it's 4.5 hours. The Charlotte to Los Angeles flight, the airspeed's 500 miles an hour. You have to take the 500 miles per hour plus the 860 miles an hour that's coming in your face, because you're taking off from Charlotte, North Carolina, and you're heading west. The Earth and everything, the Earth is coming into your face, so you have to add that speed. Add both speeds, simple math, 1,360 miles an hour. In other words, based on the law of non-contradiction, the Coriolis effect, and this is really important, with respect to the Earth and the Charlotte flight at 1.5 hours are either both true or both false. The flight is most assuredly false. Therefore, the Earth is not spinning. Ergo, the ball goes by way of the dodo bird, or you're a stationary ball geocentrist. Voila. Have a nice day. The end.
And that is an awesome one. I'm just wondering how many flat earthers are going to be able to grasp that right away.
If they, like I said, rewind, study. Rewind, study. I'll tell you what, it's a little long, right? It may seem a little abstract, but it's really simple. I'm telling you, it's really simple once you get down to it. It's just flights. Like I said, they're pragmatic. We can do this stuff. This happens every day. Right?
So can you explain to me that the corrections that snipers are making for an apparent deflection?
Okay, listen. I am retired military, okay? I spent 8 years in reconnaissance. The sniper platoon was right down the hall from me for 5 years, right? I cross-trained with these guys every quarter. They were my drinking buddies also. Let me tell you something. I ain't even heard the term Coriolis effect, much less apply it. I mean, you got to be kidding me. I personally, myself, I'm sitting here myself, right? Made 1,300 to 1,500 meters myself with a Dragunov, right? Now, to be honest, I missed the first one. That damn thing, I couldn't even see it. But I got it on the second one. The spotter helped me. He wasn't giving me Coriolis effect corrections. So, you freaking crayon munchers out there that are talking about these snipers, I'll tell you what, you get a sniper on here. I want to talk to him, and if he tells me that he uses the Coriolis effect, I'm freaking open up my camera up, I'll eat my shoe on air.
So my neighbor may well have been in that room at one point. Of course, he was in the brass side, so he may have stopped by that doorway once or twice. But he was in the what am I trying to say? Not the enlisted side, but he was an officer.
Hey, whoa, wait a second now. I was an officer too. So you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. I spent half my career as enlisted, as a non-commissioned officer, and the other half, I can't tell you or I'll have to kill you, but I was an officer, right? So don't be punking out officers on here, man. I
did not even punk out officers at all. And any officer that can spend at least half a career as an NCO, I think, deserves a lot of respect. It's these little young-ass punk asses that come out of college and think because they got a couple lieutenant bars that they get to their shit don't stink.
I work for a living, sir. Yeah. It's okay. I'm just messing with you, man. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, my neighbor. Right. I asked him the same question because he was only what he would say was special forces and spent some time out there in the desert. So I got to talking to him about, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, sure. Go.
So I was talking to him about this. So, you were a sniper. So can you tell me about this Coriolis effect? I said, were you taught it in training? And he says, well, I remember there was in school. I said, so how do you calculate? I said, I can't imagine that's an easy formula. How do you calculate the Coriolis effect? Doesn't it change by the time you get done doing your calculations? So, well, we just got a little shooter card, so you just pull it out, and everything's factored in there. You just run your finger one across and one down, and you just line up your shots that way. There's no real factoring it in. They say it's already done for you. He said he was taught about it. He remembers hearing about it and learning about it, but never once has he ever seen or applied it.
That's right. That's exactly right. You got it. And let me tell you something else. Another thing these crayon munchers do. What they do is they bring out FMs, field manuals, and they say, well, the Coriolis effect is spoken of in here. Let me tell you something about field manual, right? I spent over 20 years in the military. I looked at a field manual twice, once for the E5 board and once for the E6 board. Let me tell you something. They could hide Jimmy Hoffa's burial place in there, and he's good to go. You ain't finding it. And let me tell you something else. I was stationed in a spot where we would get defectors, Russian defectors and East German defectors, right? And they used to interrogate them up at G2, intelligence. And we'd get the debriefings. You know what they'd say? They couldn't stand training for the American Army. You know why? Those bastards never looked at their field manuals. That was and we knew it. We'd sit back there laughing because we knew it. They could never train for us because they never know what we were going to do. That's cool, man. Thanks for bringing that up. That brings back a lot of memories. Yep, that's a fact, gentlemen. And I'm speaking from personal experience. Primary knowledge. How about that? All right, we ready to move on?
Yep.
All right, this was the argument put forward to me that converted me to a flat earther within less than a Planck time, right? Because I was out there, like I said, for 10 years. I never really, heard anything on the forums about flat Earth. Maybe every once in a while, maybe about, 8 years ago, somebody brought it up. I just laugh it off and move on, right? But I knew, astrophysics, astronomy, cosmology, all those guys. I knew they were pseudoscientists from the get-go, right? I knew that. I just never put everything together, right? So I'm on a forum, and this gentleman, he knows that I've been tearing apart these friggin' evolutionists and Einsteinists and Newtonianists and all those guys. He goes, I got a question for you. I said, shoot. He goes, you ever hear that flat Earth? And I said, yeah, kind of. He goes, the Earth's flat, and I can demonstrate it. And I started laughing. Obviously, we all do that. I said, yeah, go ahead, man. He goes, try to refute this. And he says, how can you have a vacuum against, or air pressure against a vacuum? And I said, oh, my God. Right there. It took less than a Planck time. I said, oh, my God. I knew it. I knew everything. I knew there wasn't an argument against it. I know the second law of thermodynamics, backwards and forwards. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. Everything fell away. I was a flat earther, and so quick, it'd make your head spin. Right? I was out there battling astrophysics like a week after I was a flat earther. And I got the proof to it. I got the emails. I had personal correspondence to these retards. But anyway, this is the argument that really set me on the course. So, and it's real easy. And you know this one because you heard it on the, if you've been keeping up with the flat earth debate, then you know this one. How do you have a gas pressure, atmospheric pressure, without a container to begin with, when the pressure of a gas is the force that the gas exerts on the walls of its container, right? I mean, this is over right here. It's really over. You have to have a container. It's it. It's over. They can scream and cry and stomp their feet. They can do, and they do. But it's just that simple. So this is real easy. You can't have a gas pressure in an open system. And according to their fairy tale, the Earth is an open system, right? Of course, they don't know what open, closed, and isolated systems are. They're just parroting this stuff. But you can't have gas pressure in an open system. Married bachelors are more tenable. So basically, you have to explain how you can have a tire pressure without the friggin' tire, right? Now, I don't have Ryan on here. I usually put Ryan in here, pumping up the tire. If you watch that video, you know what I'm talking about, right? But I don't need Ryan. It's over right here. So, and number two, how can you have a vacuum, outer space, attached to a non-vacuum Earth without a physical barrier in the same system simultaneously, without the laws of entropy or the second law of thermodynamics? You can't. In other words, how are you still breathing, adhering to your fairy tale religion, both at the same time? Then define the law of non-contradiction. Then, please list, this is really important, please list each fairy tale associated with outer space that gets taken out back to the woodshed and bludgeoned senseless as a result of the fairy tale vacuum of space vaporizing. Like, whenever people bring up satellites or moon landings, anything to do with space, I bring this argument up. Because I don't want to chase all those things down. I don't need to. All I need to disprove is the medium. If you say the medium is a vacuum and I disprove it, then I don't have to do anything else. Right? I just disprove the medium. It's real easy. Saves time. And this is kind of fun. How in the world did the Earth form an atmosphere at all in a vacuum? From a Big Bang? Have you ever heard the phrase, nature abhors a vacuum, by chance? Why is that? That's rhetorical, by the way. P.S. If your theory is found to be against the second law of thermodynamics, I can give you no hope. There is nothing for your theory but to collapse in the deepest humiliation. This is from 1930. Arthur Eddington, The Nature of the Physical World. Kaboom! The end, you live in a deeply humiliated fairy tale. All right, any questions on that one?
No. That's one of my favourites. Is
Well, just real quick, can you cite that law of entropy?
Can I cite the law of entropy?
No,
yeah, I could. I could go.
I don't need a citation. Could you just repeat it so it's out there rather than just having said it?
Basically, the law of entropy is that energy will go from an area of concentration to dispersion.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically, in a nutshell, the second law of thermodynamics.
Until an equilibrium's reached, isn't it? And then
Exactly. Everything will always go from concentrated to dispersed, always. Unless there's two criterion that need to be overcome or that need to be instituted to overcome the second law of thermodynamics, and you're only going to overcome it for a limited amount of time anyway. So what you need is, number one, you need energy to overcome it, and it has to be the right amount of energy. And number two, intelligence. You need intelligence to overcome it, right? A good example I used to have many years ago was you just go shopping, right? You buy a whole bunch of groceries, you put them down on the counter, you go take a nap. You get up and you look over at the groceries and they didn't put themselves away, right? What do you have to do to put those groceries away? Well, you have to apply just the right amount of energy, right? So you don't crush the bread or smash the eggs, and you need intelligence so you don't put the ice cream in the cupboard and the canola oil in the freezer. You like that one?
That's pretty.
That's old-timey, man. I'm going old school on you.
You're telling I had to chew on it just for a second. I wonder.
Hey, just rewind it. Just rewind it, man.
No, I mean the point there is that naturally within nature doesn't defy entropy. It naturally follows it. It does require intervention.
Right, exactly. It'll always go from an area, and that's the best definite. I can go get it, the official one, but if I can put it, paraphrase it succinctly, it would be energy dispersion from concentrated to dispersed. And energy, I mean, you could take anything, atoms, molecules, everything, elements, compounds. You guys didn't get that one. Sorry about that.
Sorry, I do keep my volume low. I've been.
Oh, I forgot to ask you about my volume. I could get a little hyper.
Nope, your volume has been great.
All right, last one. Linear squared functions. Now, listen. Even this statement right here is friggin' moronic, isn't it? Just a statement. It's friggin' moronic if you know anything about, functions and graphing functions, right? Well, let me show you. Thanks to Ranty, right? I took the raw photograph that Ranty had of these turbines, right? And I was looking at it, and I said, what in the world? I mean, there's a lot of things wrong with this from a globe-tard perspective, but one jumped out at me. It was like the elephant in the room. I said, let me draw some lines here. So I drew the lines from the near turbines, and then I drew the lines from the 21.4 miles to the 23.6 miles. And then I said to myself, this kills the spinning ball by itself, right? Because you can't have linear lines through the hubs on a spinning ball religion that must obey nonlinear squaring functions, right? It's over right there. I could stop. I could go clean the bathroom. Yeah, I don't need a model. I don't need a model. You have a model, you're going to model. I don't need a model. I got the picture right here. This is reality, right? There's no argument against this. None. I don't know. It's been many moons since I was graphing functions, I have to admit. But I remember how this kind of works. Right? Am I wrong here?
No.
Please.
It's a beautiful proof that Ranty got there. The two.
So
Well, that was one of those things that jumped out at you, Adam, wasn't it? This very issue.
Yeah. Mine's a slightly different perspective. I mean, the first point is that it should bend slightly. You've got such a lovely stretch that you should not be able to get the linear line we have through there. My point really is that even if you've got the linear line, what you shouldn't see is that they are of equal inclination to the horizon.
that they're parallel.
Yeah, the second set, because they're being viewed at the same time, the second set should have a slightly steeper incline as it occupies a slightly further point on the supposed curve. So even if you could argue, it's because you can't quite discern the slight differences as they try to, and we'll get into why they try to pretend you can't see the line in terms of the measurements they're using, which is just distance between turbines as opposed to distance from viewer. But it really is that the second set should be, I say, angled slightly more to fit the bit of the ball that they're supposedly on from the viewer's perspective.
Wow, so you want to be a trailblazer, huh? You want to be the new guy on the block and do something different than mine, huh?
It's just an addition, isn't it? It's an addition. It's do you know what I mean? It's a great proof that Ranty's got there. It's absolutely fantastic, and if we're seeing more than one ball smasher in it, that's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it is definitely. Yeah. Okay, gentlemen, if you don't have anything else, then thanks for your year. Have a nice day.
Yeah. Mate, that was brilliant. Thank you.
Was absolutely.
No, I didn't leave. That's just my ending. It's like copyrighted.
I'm glad.
I felt like I just gave birth.
I bet after a while this almost gets to be a bit of a labor of love. It'd have to be after 30 or 40 times of giving this spiel to the Elmer Fuds of us. It's gotta be just frustrating as all hell.
You must have read some of my comments using Elmer Fudd.
I think I pulled that from our last conversation. Yeah.
Oh, I'm saying, yeah. I figured I always use Elmer Fudd. Too funny, man. Yeah. It gets frustrating. You can probably hear some of the times I get frustrated. Repeating the same thing over and over again. But it's really important to do that because it's Nathan and I were talking about this before, and repetition is important. And that's a hallmark or a traditional tenet of teaching. You do it over and over and over and over and over again, right? That's when it starts to sink through. So I adjusted my attitude towards it a little bit.
The repetition is good, especially in teaching and or learning. But I think more importantly is the consistency and what it says about the character of the person giving the information. When the information is consistent and verifiable, so it's not wishy-washy, and it's concise, so people can actually go back and hit rewind. And it may be a little heady sometimes, and it makes take a little bit time to understand it for it to sink in. But it's that type of thing that just needs to be put out there.
Yeah, I agree. If you're motivated, just go back. Like I said, these presentations, I've been speaking on this. My first one, there's a bunch of videos on Cathexis's channel. Me and Cathexis were together. We did 14 episodes. A lot of this information is in there. Of course, Nathan's channel on the science, he took the Science First Scientism that we were doing on Cathexis's channel, and he just ran with that. There's a bunch on Nathan's channel, and of course this one on here. And let me just say this: a long time ago, I told Cathexis to name it Science First Pseudoscientism, because that's what it really is. It's not science versus scientism. It's science versus pseudoscientism, just for the record.
I like it. Nope. I'm going to have to start changing my vocabulary too. That's absolutely correct.
Yeah,
I never made that connection, but yeah, I dig it.
Yeah. So I don't know. You guys don't have any questions? Is there like a Q&A period? Is anyone still watching?
Let's have a look.
Yeah, there's actually quite a few people watching. We've had pretty steady numbers all night.
Oh, really?
Well, ours are never very high, but we actually kind of like it that way.
Yeah, that's
intimate.
It's people hanging out watching live right now. We do get quite a few more on the replays, but right now we still got about 50 people watching live.
Oh, so they didn't rage quit yet?
No, you've not managed to upset him. So have another go.
Not yet. Yeah.
Yeah. Give it a go. No, mate,
Dude, give me about 30 seconds. I'll be right back.
But we got Forever Flat in chat, friend of ours from Twitter, John, who is just a big fan, who is absolutely loving tonight's show. So this one goes out to you. Big shout out, John. Glad you're here with us in chat.
Yeah, evening, John. I'll say hello.
Good evening.
Ever chatted on. Sorry, not this John. Forever Flat John. Sorry, yeah, we've.
John Watson. You know, any Johns in chat. Yeah. All the Johns, hello. And all you non-Johns. Janes. Hello to all the Janes and all the Johns. All the Tricks and all the Johns.
Oh, great. So, is there any questions? Do they have anything? How about any comments? Like, get that retard off of there.
Let's have a little look, see if I can find something disparaging about you, if that's what you're after.
Yeah, that's what I'm after. I need it.
Let's have a look.
We have Suzette Ann in chat asking your opinions on this idea of a hoax about jet fuel.
Oh, God. Not another one. Okay, listen. I take these jet fuel, this friggin' water stuff, this friggin' no trees on flat Earth, and I put them all in the same bag, and I put them out here right beside me, and I pick up my 44-inch Louisville snail spike slugger and start wailing away at it. It's nonsense. Get out of this stuff, man. Okay? Just get out of it. Let it alone. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. Maybe some infiltration, I don't know, from within. And these knuckleheads bring up all these ancillary, not that she's a knucklehead. They bring up all these things and make videos on them. And they make the flat, like I said in the beginning, remember? Is my screen still sharing?
You've got one sharing, yeah, but it's not on main presentation.
Oh, it's not. That's okay. That's okay.
But
remember,
it is showing. It is showing, but it's just in a little window.
Yeah. Remember I said, man, if you don't just stick with the main topic, listen, all you need is a flat. This is the biggest mind screw in the history of humanity, right? Don't go after the twigs. You got the whole spiel right here. What else is there, right?
Well, she had one more for you. Just out of curiosity, the nuclear hoax. This idea that nuclear bombs aren't really a thing.
Oh my goodness gracious, boy. I'm going to say no comment because I don't care. It's minuscule. It's nothing to me. I don't even get involved in that stuff anymore. I don't. What's the point? What if they do and what if they don't? I read the last chapter. I know how it's going to end. Right?
I think the nukes one's interesting. This, who knows?
I read ahead.
There's so much crap evidence that it raises a question.
That's fine.
But
yeah. But, well, yeah. Anything on the presentation?
I don't think there's much objection or criticism, mate. I don't think I'm seeing. Are you seeing out, Josh?
Nope, I'm not seeing much of anything. Like I said, there's been a lot of love in the chat tonight. We don't get a whole lot of ballers over here. They came through once a little bit earlier. That was the great thing about having you on a little bit later is they don't have the attention span to stick around.
Things I made flat enough saying rude presentation, fist pump. Noon's Flower, obviously, big smiley face to your phrase, crayon munchers. I think that's gone down there.
That's copyrighted. That's mine.
Flat enough, crayon munchers, laugh out loud. So, no, nobody hates you. I'm sorry, you've done a bad job tonight.
I have to work on this order.
Bloody rubbish.
Here's what I like. We have the nail-spiked Louisville slugger using it to beat people's ideas in a huge bag down there next to you. And anybody that wants to come on and try to argue this science, the people that are out there, he sees you. He sees you. But I'm not trying to intimidate anybody. I just want to put that out there.
That's priceless. Thanks, man.
But that was actually some comments that I stole from Chad early when we first got this started. It was. I'm not trying to intimidate anybody, but I'm watching you.
Yeah. Too funny, man. Yeah, I get a little passionate. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
People take it as arrogant and stuff. I'm really not that bad of a guy. Honest.
I have the same issues. Everybody thinks I get angry, but I'm just impassioned.
But that's right.
That argument never comes across well when you're impassioned.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I got it. And I'm not going to convince anyone anyway. They ain't ever going to meet me, right? I could just be lying.
I don't know. I'm telling you, just down 44. It's not too. I'm usually down that way once in a while. We got to stop by and share a pint. Have a pint together. We don't have to share one. We can each have our own.
I was going to say. That's intimate.
Whatever you prefer. Whatever your poison is, it doesn't matter. I don't care.
I'm not a drunkard.
I'm not much of a drunkard either. I am more than happy to sit down and have a pint of coffee. Believe me, I'm more than happy.
Oh man, yeah. That's pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We're right about not too far from 3.5 hours, which really isn't too bad. I thought this was going to be a lot longer.
So are we done?
I think we might as well be. Okay. I think that's going to be enough for people to chew on. I think hopefully we're going to get enough views from just the people stopping and rewinding and coming back to try to pick it up again and using this as a reference point. Ideally, this is going to go on my to-do list of things to try to edit down a bit more concisely, but damn, I got a big long list of things I need to do.
Well, good. I'm glad it helped. I hope those people, that's exactly what I want. I want them to come back and go over it, again and again and again, and use these arguments, man. Don't, there is no defense against this offense. None. You'll just crush them. They'll come up with silly little arguments, and maybe you might not have the acumen that I have with these arguments because I know all the arguments against them, but you'll get really good at them, right? Or you can ask me. I'm not that hard to get a hold of. You can get in touch with Adam here or Nathan. Just email them and say, hey, what's that crayon muncher talking about with it? right? And I'll answer back.
You're a gent, mate. I want to thank you for tonight. I've really enjoyed it. It's been informative and fun. So yeah, cheers.
You're very welcome, sir. Thank you for having me.
Well, Zach had to bounce out of here too. Zach has had a huge day, and I'm surprised he joined us at all, let alone lasted as long as he did. But I know he really enjoyed it too, and sends his best. Same with Walt. I know he planned on coming back, but I don't think he's going to make it from the looks of my text messages on my phone. But again, this is great stuff. I think this should definitely be used as a reference for a lot of people. Again, maybe do more than just learn the words. Being able to repeat the words doesn't make as strong an argument as actually knowing what the words mean and how it actually applies. But yeah, definitely use these arguments once you understand them a little bit. That would be my only suggestion. But with that, John, thank you so much for coming on here. I think we might as well go ahead and wrap it up.
You're welcome.
And please, feel free to come on again.
Yeah,
I will.
You'll have to pile in with Riley and Oakley and the lot next time,
Nathan,
mate.
Yeah, with my mates.
Your mates. Good lad.
All right. Yeah, will do, man. Will do. Hey, thanks again.
Thank you so much, John. Have a great rest of your night.
Cheers.
You
John.
too, guys.
Thanks, mate.
All right. Out.
I've never been so both wired and exhausted in such a strange combination before. Really weird.
Do you feel quantumly raised?
Oh, that's a yes. I definitely feel quantumly raised. Let's see. You got anything else, Adam?
I'm done for the night. Yep. Nope. I have nothing. I think we covered it all first half. So yeah, no, good show, mate. Enjoyed it. One thing, I suppose. Just see you next week. Hopefully, John, and hopefully Beulah's setting in. But other than that, no, it's been a goodie, and look forward to next week.
Yeah, we really missed your input, John. I think you would have really added a nice dimension to this conversation tonight. But I'm sure we'll probably catch it on Wednesday, because I'm sure if you're not listening now, again, you'll catch us on the replay. Well, hell.
Well,
it seems like I had other stuff, but by the time I think of it, it's going to be too late. So we might as well just call it. Maybe I'll make a note and come back to it next week. Or if anything, I may bring it up this Tuesday morning. This Tuesday morning at 4 a.m. over on TFRlive.com on the Ironworks, where Walt and I will just go ahead and break down all sorts of news things. We might have a guest. We just really play it by ear. For F's sake, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. You try making plans at 4 o'clock in the morning and see how well they turn out. I'm just saying. But if you got nothing else, I got nothing else. We might as well get the hell out of here.
Not everyone.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning into the Iron Rail Media's Flat Earth Friday FringeCast. My name is Josh Corey. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Walt. Thanks, Zach. John, wish you could have been here. And thanks, John Quantum Eraser, for coming in. What a show. All right, everybody. We'll see you again next week. Be well. Remember, put forth just that little bit of extra effort to be nice to the people around you. Love you guys. Bye-bye.